Good day, everybody. This is Chris with the Ancient Scholar, and today is just what I'm going to do is just a continuation of the poison dart frog video that I did. This is going to be just a bit more technical than that one. That one was more looking at them, identifying some of them, and specifically what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about the poisons that the dart frogs secrete, particularly of the genus and species, the Dendrobates genus that we ran into. There are literally hundreds of these alkaloids that have been identified, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but just the ones that are more prevalent in the specific frogs that I looked at on that video. So first, what I want to do is I just want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as comparing and contrasting venom to poison. We often use these terms interchangeably, and I think I did on the video that I made on the poisonous dart frogs. But there is a slight distinction in terms of talking about the toxicology of these different animals and invertebrates, reptiles, and amphibians. So to call something venomous, if I call something venomous, really what that means is that creature has to make, so it first of all, it makes the toxin, okay, so as a mechanism for producing the toxin, and then most importantly, there is a delivery mechanism that's in place, and that is really what separates venomous from poisonous. There's a delivery mechanism. Often that delivery mechanism may be in the form of a fang, in the form of a stinger. Okay, some snakes, like spitting cobras, may even spit their venom, but they have highly evolved delivery mechanisms. Poisonous, however, poisonous is interesting, and in terms of the poisonous frogs, we don't necessarily think that the frogs themselves make the toxins, but rather what the frogs do is they extract the toxins from their diet. Okay, so we think that some of the ants that they may eat, some of these ants may contain at least a precursor molecules for these poisons, and we may even there's some suspicion that there might be some symbiosis occurring as far as maybe some other organisms or bacteria that live. Bacteria is some sort of eukaryotic organism that lives coexists with the frogs. I don't think that we really have a great understanding of how this process works, but we don't think that the frog plays a huge role, or the most significant role in making the toxin. They don't have like venom sacs and cells within their bodies that are specifically designed to make these poisons. Rather, that they get these alkaloids from their diet. And then the other major thing is that they don't have the delivery mechanism like a venomous creature would have. Frogs don't have stingers. They don't spit. They don't bite. They have no way of delivering their poison other than they just secrete it. It's just excreted, rather. It's just excreted onto their skin. So these frogs will get stressed, or something will attack them, and rather than biting or stinging or spitting, they'll just excrete the toxins on their skin, and the animal comes in. And maybe the animal comes in to bite or whatever, and gets a dose of the toxin that's on the skin. That's how the animal has to get envenomated. So a poison dart frog wouldn't come after you if you startled it. It wouldn't bite you or sting you or spit you. You would actually have to touch it, lick it, ingest it, what have you. You would actually have to deliver the poisons on their skin into yourself. So that's just the difference between venomous and poisonous. So let's go ahead and move on. So when we look at the Dendrobates genus, two substances that we run into are the pseudophyramines and the pamilatoxins. I'm going to specifically talk about the pamilatoxins, and let's just go ahead and take a look at the basic molecular structure of the pamilatoxins. It basically looks more or less like this. You have these long carbon hydrogen chains here. You have a nitrogen here, and then just some hydrogens. So really, it's long carbon hydrogen chain, and I don't know these molecules very well, to be quite honest. But just looking at this, whenever you have long chains of carbons and hydrogens, you tend to have substances that are very lipophilic, which means they're really good at interacting with lipids and fats, and very good at penetrating lipid membranes. And as I understand, these alkaloids are quite lipophilic. So that's pretty consistent with what we see here. If you see this little R chain here, this little group here, this can actually consist of two different things. And what we can do is we can either attach a hydrogen here or a hydroxyl group there. If you find a molecule like this with a hydrogen attached, we call this A, or pamilitoxin A. And if it's a hydroxyl group, we call that pamilitoxin B. And there does seem to be some toxicological and biochemical differences in how these react. If it's an A versus the B form, I'm not well versed in the literature on what exactly goes on between the A and B forms. Okay, so how do these work? Well, we think that the pamilitoxins work in a variety of ways. We think that they interact with calcium channels somehow, and they can have cardiotoxic effects. We also think that they may act on sodium channels, and they may have some ligand-gated channel effects. And the net effect of these toxins, it tends to be some sort of a cardiotoxicity, possibly some cardiovascular effects, blood pressure changes, and then the sodium blockade tends to be more neurological, and you can get some paralysis and some cholinergic-like effects to some extent. So that's the basic mechanism. I also just wanted to throw this out. This is not a toxin that is common to the Dendrobate frogs that we looked at, but it's still something that people may come up with, and this is the epibetadine, which is a toxin that is found in a very, very specific type of frog, from what I understand, which is the I think it's the tricolor. It is the tricolor species of these dart frogs. So it's not one of the frogs that we looked at, but it's interesting because apparently this molecule has a very potent analgesic effects, a couple hundred times more potent than morphine, which is interesting because if you look at the structure of this, and compare and contrast that to the structure with most of the opiate substances, most of our opioids have this central structure in them, and this is what we call the morphine ring here. And then depending on, you can have some side groups that come off of here. That's what these dots are, some side groups that come off of here. But all the opioids share kind of this what's called the morphine ring in common. And you can see that it contrasts pretty significantly here. So I don't exactly know what's going on here. If maybe this is very specific to a certain type of opiate receptor. Maybe this just has very high specificity to mu opioid receptors, which are the receptors involved in a lot of the pain, decreasing pain sensation. I don't exactly know. But there you have it. It is what it is. Okay, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. As always, thanks for hanging in there.